Bianca, 35 years old, a dedicated regional talent team lead at PeakPulse Logistics in Portland, always gave her all. Early one morning, with the office still quiet, she opened her email and froze. Vincent, her direct manager, had fired her for taking 3 approved days off to arrange her mother's funeral, citing lack of work prioritization. His promise of support now felt like betrayal, stabbing at Bianca's heart as she recalled her mother's words, "You are my strength." Why would a company she poured 6 years into turn on her so cruelly? Tears welled up, but she held them back, snapped a photo of the email, and, with trembling hands, began packing her things. What secret lies behind this decision, and how will Bianca face it? 6 years at PeakPulse Logistics, building the finest team in the Pacific Northwest. Yet Bianca's reward was a cold termination email from the man who'd promised to support her through her mother's passing. Her chest tightened, betrayal mingling with profound grief. But as her eyes fell on the team photo on her desk, a radiant moment from last summer's company retreat under Portland's sun, a spark of resolve ignited. She wouldn't crumble. Not here. Not now. Bianca opened her phone, fingers steady as she snapped a photo of Vincent's email. She forwarded it to her personal account, a quiet but deliberate act, like an anchor to the truth she might need later. Her workspace, once the brightest corner of the office, now felt like a small museum of her life at PeakPulse. A tiny jade plant from Sophia for her birthday, the leather bracelet her mother gave her at 30. And a stack of handwritten thank you notes from colleagues she'd guided through late nights and tight deadlines. 6 years of laughter, tears, and triumphs, now distilled into a single cardboard box. She began packing, carefully wrapping the bracelet in tissue paper, her fingers lingering on its familiar surface. The office remained silent, save for the hum of the air conditioner, but her mother's words held her steady, "Stand tall." The first footsteps broke the stillness. Elena, the data analyst and Bianca's closest friend, froze at the sight of the half-filled box. "Bianca, what's happening?" Her voice trembled, dark eyes wide. Bianca looked up, forcing a calm she didn't fully feel. "I'm fired," she said simply. Elena gasped, the sound sharp like a cut. "What? Why?" Bianca's lips pressed tight. "Apparently, taking approved leave to bury my mother isn't prioritizing work." The words hung heavy, and Elena's face crumpled, tears spilling as she rushed forward, wrapping Bianca in a fierce hug. "They can't do this to you," she whispered, voice breaking. "You're the heart of this team." The news spread like wildfire. By 8 a.m., all 6 core team members, Marcus, Sophia, Liam, Ava, and Noah, had gathered around Bianca's desk, their faces a mosaic of shock, anger, and grief. Marcus, the logistics coordinator with a razor-sharp wit, clenched his fists, his usual grin replaced by a scowl. "Bullshit," he snapped, then lowered his voice, leaning in. "Bianca, there's something you should know. Last week, I overheard Vincent bragging about our team's performance to the board, like it was his doing. I think he's planning to replace you with a relative." The revelation hit like lightning, Bianca's breath catching. Vincent's betrayal wasn't just personal, it was calculated, a scheme to erase her contributions and bolster his own position. The team's eyes locked on her, waiting for a reaction, but she raised a hand, her voice even despite the storm inside. "Thanks, Marcus. But it's done." Vincent made his choice. Sophia, the client relations specialist, stepped forward, voice choked. "You can't leave, Bianca. The Carter contract is due next week, no one knows the system like you." Liam, the quiet operations analyst, nodded, jaw tight. "Our team's sales are up 20% this quarter because of your strategy." Vincent's lost it. Ava, the youngest, wiped tears, her voice small. "You're like family to us." Noah, the supply chain expert, crossed his arms, his usual calm cracking. "If they can do this to you, who's to say we're not next?" The air crackled with shared outrage, and for a moment, Bianca felt their loyalty like a lifeline pulling her from the abyss. She looked at each of them, her team, her professional family. They'd celebrated birthdays together, stayed late to meet deadlines, and lifted each other through losses: Marcus's divorce, Elena's father's illness, Sophia's first marathon. They weren't just colleagues, they were her legacy at Peak Pulse. "I'm not fighting this," Bianca said, her voice soft but firm. "But I won't forget." She taped the box shut, the motion deliberate, like sealing away the pain of Vincent's betrayal. "Go back to your desks. Don't give Vincent an excuse." They dispersed reluctantly, each offering a look that said they weren't done. As Bianca continued packing, the office buzzed with arriving staff. Whispers followed, eyes darting to the box on her desk. Tanya from accounting paused, coffee cup trembling in her hand. "Bianca, is it true? They fired you for taking funeral leave?" Bianca nodded, and Tanya's face hardened. "That's not just wrong, it's cruel. Have you told Rachel, the regional manager?" Bianca shook her head, wrapping the jade plant in newspaper. "I don't beg, Tanya. But I'll make sure this isn't my end." By 9:30, the office was a quiet storm. Bianca's team worked at their desks, but their glances spoke volumes. Elena slipped her a note: "We're with you, no matter what." Marcus texted: "Vincent will regret this." Others lingered nearby, their presence a silent rebellion against Vincent's authority. Then a sharp voice cut through. "Everyone, get to work. Deadlines don't wait." Vincent stood at the edge of the open-plan office, arms crossed, his lanky frame radiating irritation. His eyes fixed on Bianca, and for a moment, she caught a flicker of unease. He approached, lowering his voice. "This doesn't have to be a scene, Bianca. You can stay until end of day." She met his gaze, unflinching, her mother's strength coursing through her. "Like the discretion you showed firing me via email after promising to support my leave?" Her voice was calm, but her words cut like a blade. Vincent's jaw tightened, fingers adjusting his tie. "Business moves fast. Peak Pulse needs people who keep up. Your mother's passing was unfortunate, but," Bianca's eyes flashed, her voice dropping, icy. "Don't you dare finish that sentence, Vincent." The air between them crackled, and for a moment, he faltered, his confidence wavering. He straightened, retreating to his office with a curt, "HR is waiting." Bianca lifted her box, heart pounding but resolve unbreakable. Her team watched, faces a mix of fury and admiration. As she walked toward HR, Elena grabbed her hand, voice firm. "This isn't over, Bianca. We won't let you go alone." Bianca squeezed her hand, a silent vow forming: she'd rise above, not just for herself, but for them. Grief and anger surged like a river, but like the stones her mother taught her to emulate, she stood firm, ready for what lay ahead. The cardboard box in Bianca's hands felt heavy, not just with belongings but with the weight of suppressed emotions as she stepped out of Peak Pulse Logistics. The glass door hissed shut behind her, a faint farewell. Portland's morning air was crisp, the sky a blend of gray and gold like a watercolor painting, but the world seemed to hush, as if holding its breath. Driving through Portland's tree-lined streets, her phone buzzed, snapping her from her thoughts. The screen flashed Laura Bennett, Apex Transit. Bianca's heart raced. Laura, the charismatic CEO of Peak Pulse's biggest rival, had met her at a logistics conference last year, where they'd bonded over sustainable supply chains. Laura had hinted at recruiting her, but Bianca, loyal to her team and Peak Pulse, had politely declined. Now, with Vincent's betrayal raw, the call felt like fate. She pulled into a coffee shop parking lot, the rich scent of roasted beans drifting through her cracked window, and answered. "Bianca," Laura's voice was warm, steady, "I heard about Peak Pulse. I'm so sorry about your mother, and how they treated you." Bianca froze, her throat tightening. How did Laura know? The industry grapevine was fast, but this felt deeper. Laura continued, her tone shifting to sincerity. "I lost my mother 6 months ago. I know that pain, how it reshapes your world. When I learned Peak Pulse fired you for taking funeral leave, I couldn't stay silent. Apex needs someone like you, Bianca, your vision, your leadership. I want you as Director of Operations for the Northwest. The offer pierced the storm clouds like sunlight. Director. A massive leap from her role at PeakPulse, with greater authority, a 40% salary increase, and a chance to shape regional logistics strategy. Bianca's mind reeled, but Laura wasn't done. And I want you to build your own team. Bring anyone you trust. Apex will back you. The words landed with weight, as if Laura saw not just her resume but her soul. Bianca held her breath, eyes stinging. Laura's empathy, the shared thread of loss, unlocked a door she'd bolted shut since her mother's funeral. I don't know what to say, she managed, voice thick. Laura replied, gentle but firm. Say you'll think about it. Meet me tomorrow at our headquarters. We'll talk details. The call ended, and Bianca sat in her car, the coffee shop's neon sign flickering in her peripheral vision. She closed her eyes, picturing her mother's smile, the way she'd tilt her head and say, "Opportunities come when you're ready to see them." This wasn't chance, it was a door swinging open, as if her mother had nudged it from beyond. But there was a hurdle, PeakPulse's non-compete clause, barring her from working for a competitor within 300 miles for 6 months. It was a chain, forcing her to sit on the sidelines or abandon the industry she loved. Bianca drove home to her cozy apartment, filled with books and soft lamplight, and called Ferran Torres, a labor attorney recommended by a friend. His office was small but sharp, stacked with law books and overlooking the Willamette River. Over coffee, she laid out the situation, showing Vincent's email and the termination notice. Torres leaned forward, glasses glinting as he reviewed the non-compete. Too broad, he said, tapping the paper. Idaho courts rarely enforce clauses like this when the employer acts in bad faith, and firing you for funeral leave is textbook bad faith. Apex is smart to want you. Move forward, but carefully. Bianca's pulse quickened. What if PeakPulse sues? Torres grinned, a mischievous spark in his eyes. Let them try. Their case is weak, especially with that email. Apex's legal team will tear it apart. Emboldened, Bianca called Laura that evening, her voice steady despite her churning stomach. I'm in, she said, but on one condition. If my old team applies, I want them considered fairly. Laura didn't hesitate. Deal. If they're half as good as you, we'd be fools not to hire them. The agreement felt like a pact, a shared vision for a workplace that valued people over profit. The next morning, Bianca stepped into Apex Transit's headquarters, a sleek building with open spaces and floor-to-ceiling windows framing Portland's skyline. Unlike PeakPulse's stifling cubicles, Apex buzzed with collaboration, employees brainstormed at standing desks, whiteboards scrawled with ideas. Laura greeted her with a firm handshake and a smile radiating confidence. Over a conference table strewn with charts and coffee cups, Laura outlined the role, overseeing logistics for Oregon, Washington, and Idaho, with a budget for innovation and a team built from scratch. You report directly to me, Laura said, eyes locked on Bianca. I want your ideas shaping our future. The scope of the task was daunting, but Bianca felt a thrill she'd never known at PeakPulse, where Vincent's grip often clipped her wings. Laura leaned in, her voice softening. I meant what I said about my mother. When she passed, I took a week off, and the board supported me. Apex isn't perfect, but we try to put people first. You won't be punished for being human here. The words were a balm to Bianca's wounded heart. She thought of her team, Elena's loyalty, Marcus's protective anger, Sophia's quiet strength, and knew she couldn't leave them behind. My team, she began, they're the best in the business. If they come with me, we'll deliver results beyond your expectations. Laura's smile widened. I'm counting on it. By noon, Bianca signed a preliminary agreement, her heart pounding with excitement and nerves. Apex's legal team had reviewed the non-compete, deeming it unenforceable, and promised to cover legal costs if PeakPulse pushed back. As she left the building, the Willamette River glimmered in the distance, its steady flow mirroring her mother's wisdom. Rivers move, but stones endure. Bianca felt like a stone, resilient yet shaped by the current. Her phone buzzed with a group text from her team, Elena's message at the top, * meet at Riverfront Brewing tonight. Need to talk, * Bianca smiled, sensing their restlessness. They weren't just a team, they were allies, ready to follow her into the unknown. That evening, in a cozy pub far from downtown Portland, Bianca sat with Elena, Marcus, Sophia, Liam, Ava, and Noah. The air crackled with anticipation, their faces a mix of resolve and hope. "Heard you met with Apex," Marcus said, voice low but urgent. "Is it true?" Bianca nodded, and Elena leaned forward, eyes blazing. "We're in. Whatever you're doing, we're with you." The others nodded, and Bianca's chest swelled with gratitude. They weren't just colleagues, they were family, forged in the crucible of PeakPulse's betrayal. "Apex is hiring," she said carefully. "I can't promise anything, but I'll vouch for you. Apply, and we'll see." Noah, usually reserved, spoke up. "We already did. All 6 of us, this afternoon." Their boldness stunned her, and for the first time that day, Bianca laughed, the sound bright against the pub's warm hum. Driving home, the city lights blurred through her windshield, and Bianca felt a shift. The pain of Vincent's betrayal and her mother's death hadn't faded, but it no longer dragged her down. It was fuel, igniting a vision of a future where she and her team could thrive. Apex wasn't just a job, it was a chance to build something better, a legacy her mother would be proud of. She glanced at the jade plant on the passenger seat, its leaves catching the streetlights, and whispered, "We'll do this, Mom." The road ahead was uncertain, but with her team by her side and Apex's faith in her, Bianca was ready to carve a new path. The ink on the preliminary agreement with Apex Transit was barely dry when ripples of chaos began spreading through PeakPulse Logistics. Driving back from Apex's vibrant headquarters, Bianca's heart still thrummed with the promise of a fresh start. Laura's empathetic offer, the vision of building a team free from PeakPulse's stifling culture, and the quiet faith that her mother's wisdom was guiding her. But as she parked, her phone lit up with a flood of notifications. Messages from PeakPulse colleagues, not her close team, hinted at a storm brewing within the company. Something was unraveling, and faster than she'd imagined. By the next morning, the storm had a name: collapse. Bianca sipped coffee in her apartment's kitchen nook, scrolling through a group chat that had exploded overnight. Tanya from accounting, usually reserved, sent a frantic message: "Carter contract is threatening to pull out. No one can find your contract analysis." Another, from a junior analyst, Vincent, called an emergency meeting. "Office is a mess without you." Bianca set her mug down, pulse quickening. She hadn't expected her departure to ripple so immediately. Her organizational systems, meticulous, intuitive, uniquely hers, were the backbone of PeakPulse's top-performing department. Without her, the machine was grinding to a halt. A flicker of satisfaction sparked, but it quickly gave way to a deeper realization: PeakPulse's failure wasn't her doing, it was the inevitable result of a culture that discarded its best talent. The emergency meeting, held on a Saturday, was a disaster. Marcus, still at PeakPulse but ready to jump ship, sent Bianca a detailed play-by-play. Vincent, his polished facade cracking, stood before the team, demanding they step up to fill Bianca's void. He piled on extra work without raises, his tone sharp with desperation. But the team, still reeling from Bianca's firing, pushed back. Sophia, typically diplomatic, asked bluntly, if Bianca was so critical, why weren't her systems documented? Vincent's stammered response, vague excuses about time, only fueled discontent. Then the bomb dropped. A mid-level manager, emboldened by the tension, revealed a leaked email from Vincent to the board, claiming credit for Bianca's Carter contract strategy while blaming her personal issues to justify her termination. The room erupted. Marcus's message summed it up: "This is a mutiny. Everyone's done with Vincent." Bianca stood by her apartment window, the Willamette River a silver ribbon in the distance, letting the news sink in. The leaked email was a shock, stark proof of Vincent's deceit. She thought of her mother, who'd said, "Truth always rises, like water through cracks." This was the truth, breaking through PeakPulse's veneer. Her phone buzzed again, this time a direct message from Rachel, the regional manager absent during Bianca's firing. "Bianca, we need to talk. This wasn't my call. Please call me." Bianca hesitated, fingers hovering over the screen. Rachel's absence had enabled Vincent, but her tone carried regret. Bianca didn't respond, not yet. She wasn't ready to re-engage with PeakPulse's chaos. Her mind was on Apex, her team, and the future they'd build. The next week, the exodus began. Elena was the first to confirm an Apex offer, her voice bubbling over the phone. "They loved my interview, Bianca. I start Monday." Marcus followed, then Sophia, Liam, Ava, and Noah, each landing roles that played to their strengths. Apex's hiring team, impressed by their skills and loyalty to Bianca, fast-tracked the process. By Friday, all 6 submitted resignations to PeakPulse, their letters a collective wave that rocked the company. Bianca met them at a quiet downtown coffee shop, the air thick with triumph and nerves. "We did it," Sophia said, eyes shining. "We're free." But Noah, ever pragmatic, voiced their shared fear: what if PeakPulse sues? The non-compete? Bianca smiled, recalling Torres's confidence. "Apex has our backs." And Vincent dug his own grave. The fallout at PeakPulse escalated. The Carter contract, a revenue cornerstone, officially pulled out, citing operational instability and a desire to work with Bianca's team. Other clients, hearing of the turmoil, began demanding assurances PeakPulse couldn't provide. Vincent's desperate measures, micromanaging, reshuffling teams, begging staff to stay, only worsened the spiral. Then the final blow landed. An anonymous whistleblower, later rumored to be a disgruntled HR assistant, sent Bianca an encrypted file. It contained internal records showing Vincent had fudged project timelines, pinning delays he caused on Bianca. The records, paired with the leaked email, painted a damning picture of a manager scrambling to save his reputation by sacrificing his best employee. Bianca forwarded the file to Torres, who whistled over the phone. "Pure gold. If PeakPulse comes after you, they're done." The board, alerted by the Carter loss and mounting complaints, suspended Vincent pending an investigation. Rachel, now back from a conference, launched a full review of management, but it was too late. PeakPulse stock plummeted, and rumors of a buyout swirled. By month's end, a national logistics conglomerate acquired PeakPulse at a fire sale price, buying only its client list and warehouses, discarding its toxic culture. Bianca read the news on her phone while standing on a bridge over the Willamette, the river steady as her mother's teachings. She felt no glee, only quiet justice. PeakPulse didn't fall because she left, it collapsed under the weight of its own failures, exposed by the truth her mother promised would rise. The team's transition to Apex was seamless. The first week was a whirlwind of onboarding, brainstorming, and laughter in Apex's open-plan office. Laura, true to her word, gave Bianca freedom to structure the department, and the team dove in, their energy infectious. Elena rebuilt data dashboards, Marcus optimized delivery routes, and Sophia charmed clients with her warmth. Liam, Ava, and Noah untangled operational knots, their synergy a testament to bonds forged at PeakPulse. Clients, including some wavering from PeakPulse, began reaching out, drawn by buzz about Bianca's new project. The Carter contract rep emailed directly, "We want to restart with your team. Name your terms." Bianca forwarded it to Laura, who replied with one word: perfect. As the dust settled, Bianca reflected on PeakPulse's rapid implosion. She hadn't set out to destroy her old company, but her departure, and her team's, had sparked a reckoning. The leaked records, the whistleblower, the client defections, all were ripples from a single stone, her firing, tossed into the fragile waters of the company. She thought of her mother's funeral, the rain-soaked earth, and her vow to stand tall. This was that vow, not through revenge but through the quiet power of walking away and building anew. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus, heard Vincent's gone for good. Office is a ghost town. Bianca didn't reply. She didn't need to. The river of her life was flowing, and she was ready for its next bend. That evening, Bianca joined her team at a riverside park, the Willamette's ripples glinting under the sunset. They spread blankets, shared takeout, and laughed, their voices a melody blending with the water's murmur. To Bianca, Elena said, raising a soda can, for showing us what's possible. Bianca lifted her own, voice soft but clear. To us. And to my mother, who knew the truth always finds a way. As dusk fell, she felt her mother in the breeze, a whisper of pride, urging her forward, steady as the endless river. The ripples from PeakPulse Logistics' collapse continued to spread. But Bianca stood firm on her new shore, where Apex Transit opened a radiant horizon. The exodus of her team, Elena, Marcus, Sophia, Liam, Ava, and Noah, had shaken PeakPulse, leaving behind a company crumbling under the weight of its self-inflicted mistakes. The following weeks at Apex were a whirlwind of creativity. With the autonomy Laura granted, Bianca set about shaping the Northwest Division. She held strategy sessions where the team gathered around a round table, coffee steaming, and bold ideas were scribbled on white boards. Elena, with her razor-sharp analytical mind, proposed a real-time data tracking system to optimize transport routes. Marcus, a logistics maestro, redesigned delivery paths, slashing transit times by 15% without raising costs. Sophia, whose smile could melt skepticism, forged tight bonds with new clients, turning cold calls into long-term contracts. Liam and Ava, the operations duo, worked like a well-oiled machine, streamlining warehouse processes for greater efficiency. Noah, with his pragmatic brilliance, developed a forecasting model to anticipate market shifts. Their synergy, honed over years at PeakPulse, now flourished in Apex's innovation-driven environment. Within 3 months, the results surpassed expectations. Bianca's division posted a 30% growth rate, a figure that turned heads across Apex's boardroom. They secured the Carter contract, a direct blow to PeakPulse, along with 2 other major deals from clients once loyal to their former employer. One, a contract with the e-commerce giant Cascade, came from a negotiation led by Sophia, backed by Bianca through late nights prepping documents. When the deal was signed, Laura sent Bianca a concise email: "You and your team are Apex's greatest asset." Bianca printed it, pinning it beside the team photo on her desk, a reminder that this success belonged to all of them. Operational innovations were another triumph. Building on Liam's idea, the team rolled out a warehouse automation system, cutting storage costs by 22% without layoffs. Instead, Apex retrained warehouse staff to operate the new tech, a decision Bianca fiercely defended in a meeting with the finance board. "We don't replace people," she said, voice steady, "we empower them." Laura, at the head of the table, nodded in approval, later calling it the moment that defined Apex's culture. The policy not only boosted efficiency but lifted morale, with employee satisfaction hitting a record high in internal surveys. Bianca, recalling the days Vincent treated her like a number, felt pride in building a workplace that valued every individual. The team's personal growth shone just as brightly. Elena, once shy in presentations, now confidently led a small data analytics crew, earning an internal award for tech innovation. Marcus, with his boundless energy, was honored at an industry conference for his groundbreaking logistics model, texting Bianca, "Without you, I'd still be stuck at PeakPulse." Sophia, with her diplomatic flair, became Apex's face at client events, her name appearing in trade magazines. Liam and Ava, now operations co-leads, were tapped to train new hires, passing on the teamwork Bianca had instilled. Noah, quiet but incisive, was promoted to regional supply chain manager, a role PeakPulse had denied him. Each stride they took was proof of the environment Bianca had created, a place that nurtured talent, not stifled it. 6 months after joining Apex, Bianca was summoned to Laura's office. She entered, slightly apprehensive, but Laura stood, beaming. "The board just met," she said, "and we unanimously voted to promote you to Vice President of Operations for the Northwest." Bianca froze, gripping the chair to steady herself. The role not only expanded her authority but positioned her to shape company-wide strategy. Laura handed her a small box containing a pen engraved with "Lead with Heart, Apex." "You haven't just delivered results," Laura said, "you've changed how we operate, from the inside out." Bianca held the pen, feeling her mother's presence, whispering encouragement. She thought of the long nights at Peak Pulse, fighting to be heard, and now she stood at the pinnacle, recognized not just for her skill but for who she was. To celebrate, the team threw a small party in the office, with cake and flickering candles. As Bianca cut the first slice, Marcus stood, raising his coffee mug like a toast. To Bianca, he said, who showed us what real leadership lifts up. Elena, eyes sparkling, added, and to your mom, who gave us you. The team laughed, but Bianca's throat tightened. She stood, voice soft with emotion. Thank you all. But this is our success. My mother would be so proud, not just of me, but of every one of you. In that moment, under the office's gentle light, Bianca felt her mother smiling, an unseen but warm presence. Their success went beyond numbers. Clients from across the region flocked to Apex, drawn by the reputation of Bianca's team, a group blending efficiency with rare sincerity. One client, Cascade's supply chain director, said plainly during a contract signing, "We chose Apex because your team gets that logistics isn't just about goods, it's about people." The words lodged in Bianca's mind, affirming she'd built the legacy her mother envisioned, a workplace that honored every person, from staff to clients. Looking back, Bianca saw this journey as more than a triumph over Peak Pulse, it was proof of resilience as power. She'd turned the pain of her mother's loss and Vincent's betrayal into fuel for something better. Apex wasn't just a company, it was a home, where she and her team found purpose. One evening, she stood by the Willamette River, its surface glinting under the stars. She pulled her mother's leather bracelet from her pocket, tracing its soft surface. "Mom, we did it," she whispered, sensing her mother in the breeze, in the waves. The jade plant on her Apex desk still thrived, a small but vivid symbol of growth through adversity. Bianca smiled, knowing the road ahead, however rocky, would always be lit by the light her mother left behind. One morning, as Bianca reviewed quarterly reports, her phone buzzed with an unknown number. The caller was Baron, a former HR employee at Peak Pulse, his voice shaky through the speaker. "Bianca, I shouldn't be doing this, but I have to tell you. I found a document in the old system about you." Baron sent a PDF, and when Bianca opened it, her heart skipped. It was an internal memo detailing a meeting Vincent held with the board just before her firing. In it, Vincent acknowledged Bianca as irreplaceable but proposed her termination to set an example and curb personal leave habits. The document, buried in the system, was stark evidence of injustice. But what stunned Bianca more was a handwritten note at the bottom from a now-retired board member: "This decision will kill the company's spirit. Bianca is our future." She sat frozen, her hand trembling as it grazed the screen. The truth, as her mother promised, had risen, not just to vindicate her, but to affirm the value Peak Pulse had denied. That same day, a letter arrived by mail, its faded Peak Pulse logo envelope worn. Inside was a small photo, her mother, taken during a visit to the Peak Pulse office, beaming beside the jade plant. Tacked with it was a note from Baron, "Found this in the archives. Thought you should have it. Peak Pulse shuts down next week." Bianca held the photo, silent tears falling. The image of her mother, forgotten in the debris of a collapsing company, felt like a gift from fate, reconnecting their bond. She placed it next to the Apex team photo on her desk, a reminder that this journey wasn't just for her, but for what her mother taught: stand tall, love fiercely, and build. Peak Pulse's downfall wasn't caused by Bianca or her team, but by a culture that treated employees as tools. She read news that Peak Pulse's parent company, post-acquisition, revised its bereavement leave policies system-wide, inspired by the Portland case, her story. An industry article, forwarded by an Apex colleague, called Bianca's departure a wake-up call for logistics firms, urging them to rethink employee treatment. She hadn't sought fame, but the truth of her firing for taking funeral leave had spread, becoming a torch illuminating the industry's dark corners. Bianca thought of her mother's words: "A small stone can make big waves." She'd been that stone, and the waves still rippled. At Apex, Bianca continued shaping a different workplace. She introduced policies to support employees through personal loss, flexible leave, free counseling, and launched leadership training emphasizing empathy. In an internal workshop, she shared her story, not to vilify Peak Pulse but to inspire. A strong company isn't just about profit, she said, but how it lifts its people. Employees stood to applaud, and Laura, watching from the room's edge, nodded with proud eyes. The policies not only retained talent but attracted clients seeking an ethical partner. A major supply chain director, after signing with Apex, told Bianca, "I chose you because I know your people are treated like humans, not machines." Bianca's quiet revenge wasn't in destroying PeakPulse, it was in building a vibrant, humane Apex that rendered the old model obsolete. She didn't sue, though Barron's document and Torres's advice gave her a strong case. Instead, she chose the path her mother would have cheered, letting success and kindness speak. When a colleague asked if she regretted not fighting PeakPulse directly, Bianca smiled, eyes glinting. Regret? No. Every step I take, every smile my team shares, is my answer. She thought of the dark days, Vincent's cold email, and how she'd turned it into light. That wasn't revenge, it was victory. A year after her firing, Bianca received a lunch invitation from Rachel, PeakPulse's former regional manager, now an organizational culture consultant. They met at a small restaurant by the Willamette River, its glinting water evoking her mother's lessons. Rachel, more at ease than before, opened with an apology. "I failed by not stopping Vincent," she said, eyes downcast. "Your and your team's exit exposed everything wrong at PeakPulse. I'm helping other companies avoid those mistakes now." Bianca nodded, harboring no blame. "Sometimes, you have to lose something precious to see its value," she replied. Rachel gave a sad smile, but her eyes held respect. As they parted, she clasped Bianca's hand. "You've changed this industry, Bianca. Not everyone could." The simple words struck deep, like a circle closing. The end came on a quiet evening as Bianca stood alone by the Willamette. She held her mother's photo, the leather bracelet, and Laura's engraved pen, feeling as if she cradled her entire journey. The breeze carried cool river mist, and she whispered, "Mom, I did it. Not just for me, but for everyone." She pictured her mother smiling, eyes bright as stars, proud not only of the success but of how it was achieved, through compassion, resilience, and faith in truth. The jade plant on her Apex windowsill still thrived, a small emblem of life through adversity, like Bianca, like her team. Looking to the future, Bianca knew challenges awaited, but she wasn't afraid. She'd learned that the most painful moments, losing her mother, being fired, could lead to the most beautiful outcomes if she stood firm like a stone against life's river. Her legacy at Apex, a joyful team, loyal clients, and an industry shifting, was proof. She hadn't destroyed PeakPulse, she'd built a better world, where people like her mother, who taught love and perseverance, would always be honored. As she walked away, moonlight reflecting on the river, Bianca felt a profound peace, knowing her mother was there, in every step, in every wave she'd set in motion. Bianca's journey teaches us that resilience and compassion can transform adversity into opportunity. Despite being treated unjustly, she chose to stand tall, building a workplace that honors people, proving that true success comes from lifting each other up. This lesson reminds us, in life, face challenges with kindness and strategy, turning pain into strength. Today, take action, create positive change in your work, life, or community. Like and subscribe to support us in sharing more inspiring stories. Your support is the spark that drives us to create deeper, meaningful content, spreading positive values together. Leave your thoughts in the comments. How will you choose to stand strong like Bianca?